Number of reasons why you're still struggling being broke, you've identified your zero as zero. First thing we want to talk about is financial success and helping you get out of this rat race of just struggling. So we talk about a lot of stuff in this series, but one thing is critical is what do you identify as your zero? A lot of times we identify our zeros like, okay, it's zero money. I don't have no money. I can't spend. I got to go find a way to get creative to bring more money in. I may get a part-time job, see if I'll get more hours at my current job, find ways of bringing in more money for my business. But right now you identify being broke as your zero. So let's change that. How do we change that? First thing we need to do, we need to really look at our financial situation. We need to look at all of our bills. We need to look at money's coming in and where money's going. Subscription service is crazy. So much money is being paid on subscription service, going out to eat and different things like that. But let's identify this initial conversation of what do you identify as your zero. So say you get $2,000 paycheck, $2,500 paycheck, right? You'll probably put away maybe $250 of that. You put that in a savings. And then you pay all your bills and you do your different leisure expenses and different things like that. Something comes up and you have to tap into that $250 savings. You tap into it because you're like, I don't have no money. Oh, I do have money. I have $250 in my savings account. So you start tapping into that money. And then next thing you know, you're at zero. Next thing you get another paycheck, and then you do the same thing at $250, and then you have to tap into that $250. And then something happens and maybe you get a bonus or taxes come in, you get a refund, different things like that. So then you put away $1,000, and then hardship comes up and you got to tap into that $1,000. See the process. So you keep tapping into your savings because you identified that I don't have no money, but I have $500, I have $1,000 in my savings. So if you identify that as your zero, you don't tap into that money. So let's look at this process again. And this is how you actually start getting out the rat race. So when you're at a zero balance, you'll look at life and like, I can't do this. I'm behind on stuff. I don't have no money. I got to figure out how can I drive money coming into my accounts, my business, different things like that. Because you've identified right now that this is your zero that you're at. So you put that $250 away. Now your zero is $250. $250 means you have zero money. So that $250 doesn't exist in your account. Next thing, you get another pay, your next paycheck or money comes in, and you have another $250. Put that $250 into that reserve, whether it's a savings. So you put another $250 away. So now what happens? Now your zero is $500. Look at how that process starts to grow, and now you're looking up. So you'll say, okay, well, I have my zero is 500. I need money. I don't have no money. I got some urgency, this and that. You have to figure out a way to make it happen because you have zero money right now. Your threshold of zero is zero. So that your threshold of zero is 500. So as you keep doing that, you'll understand that. And imagine at the end of the year, you looked up and you have $5,000 put away in an account. Because you've looked at it from a different standpoint. So that's the first thing you need to really, and really what that is, it's a mindset change. The next thing, you have to create a budget. And that is tough. You have to create a budget. Because what happens is you start bringing in more money. And the more money you bring in, if you don't create a budget, what happens is your spend threshold increases. And the more money you come in and then you get a raise or even you can take a $20,000 raise. If you haven't started looking at your finance and your spending, I mean, $20,000 raise per year, new job. If you haven't looked at your finance and your spending, what you're going to look at is your spend is going to catch up with your budget. It's going to catch up no matter what you do. So you need to really start looking at that. Another thing I say, if you are really struggling, you need to have other streams of income. And I've said this a lot of times. I lived in LA, and LA was so like an eye-opener for me. So many people were working 2 to 3 jobs. You come here in different places. We're in Ohio, and I look around and people just don't want to work. Where you're looking at your financial situation, and it's not enough that you're struggling. It's not enough that you can't pay your bills. We're always looking for the quick fix, and that quick fix requires you to be disciplined with your spending and your lifestyle. And I talk about that in a lot of different videos. Is discipline is going to push you so much further than anything else. And some of the things you have to understand is some of us are so deep in debt, it requires us to get, different financial counseling. Some people have to file, bankruptcy. Some people have to get debt consolidation. There's things. Next thing, find a mentor. Whether it's online, you don't even gotta like physically meet them. Find someone who has been through the struggle and has gotten over. Now, before you start finding people, we all gonna go in. We're gonna first search people who have struggled and they're millionaires and then they're billionaires. And look. Those people are helpful, but you need to find people who are just getting over and they're living a thriving lifestyle. Sometimes we get so caught up in following the rich and the wealthy that it becomes out of reach. And sometimes when you make so much money, you actually become out of touch. Some of your principles and your theories, they're not as, in touch with someone who is like really struggling with a 9 to 5. And some of the things you have to understand is some of us are so deep in debt, it requires us to get, different financial counseling. Some people have to file, bankruptcy. Some people have to get debt consolidation. There's things. We have to understand that things happen in our life and we have to make decisions, we have to make pivots to get back on track. And us getting back on track, you can't hold your head down. Sometimes you get frustrated and you're not happy with your finances and you hold your head down. I should be retired right now. I should have this amount. I should have this amount of savings. Okay, that may be true. There's nothing you can do about that. So we need to pick the pieces up, left foot, right foot, and keep moving forward. You can't keep looking at the past. You can't change none of your past. There are people right now who are in the 60s, the 70s, and they're just depressed because they've made these decisions, and that's just how life is. You can change your life at any stage, but it depends on how you look at it. Financial discipline is critical. Getting up and finding a job. There's so many jobs right now. Like technology is changing. We go into artificial intelligence and different things like that, but there's so many jobs out there. Sometimes it requires to take a job that's a humbling experience and it helps us to get ahead. But whatever you identify as a humbling experience for a job, for someone else, they're out there, taking it. We will get a lot of foreigners taking some of these jobs because we're too prideful and we're just like, no, we have to suck up our pride, find streams of revenue and drive that in. So I hope this helped you, but I really wanted you to come in and look at your finances, be disciplined, and discipline is critical, especially when we're looking at creating a new zero.